My name is Hannah, and I've been invisible for 3 years. Not literally invisible, of course. I wake up every morning in our apartment overlooking the Tiber River. I make coffee in our expensive machine that Marcus's mother bought us, the one with Italian instructions I had to translate myself because nobody offered to help. I go to work at the international school where I teach English to children who actually see me, who smile when I walk into the room, who remember my name. Then I come home and disappear all over again. Marcus doesn't notice. He's too busy with his family's wine import business, taking calls from his mother at midnight, flying to Tuscany every other weekend for meetings I'm never invited to. We've been married for 3 years, together for 5, and I can count on one hand the number of times his family has asked me a question about myself. Real questions, not the polite ones you ask strangers at parties. His mother Catherine made it clear from the start. I wasn't Italian enough, wasn't wealthy enough, wasn't enough, period. But Marcus promised it would get better. He promised his family would warm up to me. He promised a lot of things. Tonight was supposed to be different. Catherine's 60th birthday dinner at Villa Borghese, the most exclusive restaurant in Rome. Marcus had actually asked me to help plan it, which felt like progress. Like maybe I was finally being let into the family circle. So I'd spent weeks coordinating with the venue, the caterers, the musicians. I'd used my own credit card because Catherine refused to accept money from me, so I'd done it in secret, hoping the gesture would mean something. Hoping she'd finally see me as family. I wore the navy dress Marcus's sister Vanessa had mentioned she liked once, 2 years ago at a wedding. I'd remembered because it was the only compliment she'd ever given me. I had my hair done at the salon Catherine goes to. I even wore the perfume Marcus bought me for our anniversary, the one that cost €300 and smelled like white flowers and desperation. The restaurant glowed like something out of a dream when we arrived. Candlelight reflected off marble columns. The long table was set with crystal and gold-rimmed china. White roses, Catherine's favorite, spilled from tall vases down the center. Everything was perfect. Everyone started arriving. Thomas and his wife Sophia. Vanessa and her new boyfriend. The cousins from Milan. The aunt and uncle from Florence. They greeted each other with kisses and exclamations in rapid Italian, the kind that's too fast for me to follow even after 5 years of lessons. Marcus moved through the crowd like he was born to it, laughing, touching shoulders, belonging. I stood near the entrance, smiling, waiting for someone to acknowledge me. Vanessa walked right past me to admire the flower arrangements. Thomas asked Marcus about the wine selection without glancing my way. Catherine arrived last, in a cream silk gown that probably cost more than I make in a month, and she looked through me like I was a window. "Everyone, please, find your seats," the maitre d' announced. That's when I noticed. The table had 12 chairs. I counted the people. 13, including me. My stomach dropped as everyone began settling into their places. I walked along the table, looking for a name card with my name on it. Catherine at the head. Marcus to her right. Vanessa beside him. Thomas across. The cousins, the aunt, the uncle, even Vanessa's boyfriend who I'd met for the first time 20 minutes ago. All had seats. All had names written in elegant calligraphy on little cream cards. I reached the end of the table. No card. No chair. No space for me. The marble floor felt cold suddenly, even through my heels. I could hear my own heartbeat over the soft music playing. I looked at Marcus, who was checking his phone, that familiar grin on his face. The one I used to think was charming back when we first met at that cafe in Trastevere. Back when he'd looked at me like I was the only person in the room. He glanced up and saw me standing there. His grin widened. "Oops," he said, loud enough that everyone stopped talking. "Looks like we miscounted." The silence lasted maybe 2 seconds. Then Vanessa started laughing. A high, bright sound that cut through me. Thomas joined in, then the cousins, then everyone else. Even Vanessa's boyfriend, who didn't know me well enough to laugh at me, chuckled awkwardly along with the rest. Catherine's lips curved into the thinnest smile I'd ever seen. She picked up her wine glass and took a delicate sip, her diamond earrings catching the candlelight. I stood there against the wall, my hands folded in front of me, feeling 15 pairs of eyes dancing over me with amusement. The heat rose in my chest, crawling up my neck. My vision blurred at the edges. But something inside me went very quiet, very still. This was it. The moment I finally understood. I wasn't going to be accepted. I wasn't going to be welcomed. I wasn't family. I was a joke they'd been laughing at for 3 years, and I'd been too desperate to see it. I took a breath and kept my voice steady, calm, like glass before it shatters. Seems I'm not part of the family. The laughter faltered. Marcus's grin flickered for just a second, confusion crossing his face. I turned and walked toward the entrance, my heels clicking against the marble. Each step echoed in the sudden quiet. Nobody called after me. Nobody asked me to wait. The heavy doors opened, and the night air hit my face. Rome stretched out below, all ancient streets and amber lights, beautiful and cold. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone. Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I like to know how far my stories are reaching, and a like and subscribe means a lot to small channels like ours and will keep these stories coming. Now let's continue. I opened my email and found the confirmation from Villa Borghese Events. Booked under my name. Paid for with my credit card, the one Marcus didn't know about because I'd wanted this to be my gift. My peace offering to a family that would never want it. 3 phone calls. That's all it took to burn it all down. First, the venue manager. I explained there had been a family emergency, we needed to cancel immediately. He protested about the deposit, the last-minute notice, the other parties they'd turned away. I told him to keep the deposit. Just shut it down. Now. But Signora, the guests are already inside. I know, I said. End it. Second, the catering company. They were in the kitchen, plating the first course. Saffron risotto with white truffle, Catherine's favorite. The coordinator sounded panicked. We cannot simply stop service, we have a contract. The contract is void. Check your email. I'm sending the cancellation now. Third, the string quartet. They were setting up in the corner, tuning their instruments. For musicians who'd probably been looking forward to playing for Rome's elite. The violinist answered. We're about to begin the first piece. You won't be playing tonight. You'll be paid in full. Go home. 28 minutes had passed since I walked out. I sat on the stone steps outside the restaurant, breathing in jasmine from the gardens, listening to a fountain somewhere in the darkness. My phone buzzed. Marcus, where did you go? Stop being dramatic. I stared at the message. Dramatic. That's what he thought this was. Drama. Not humiliation. Not the final insult after 1,000 small cuts over 3 years. I didn't reply. Then my phone rang. Marcus. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. And again. Inside the restaurant, I heard the first shout. A man's voice, probably the manager. Then Catherine's sharp tone cutting through like a blade. The heavy doors burst open and Marcus came running out, his face transformed. The grin was gone. His skin had gone pale, his eyes wide. Behind him, the entire family poured into the entrance hall. Voices overlapped in confusion and anger. Catherine appeared in the doorway, her silk gown catching on the frame, her perfect composure cracking. Marcus saw me sitting on the steps. What did you do? I stood up slowly, smoothing my navy dress. I uninvited myself. And apparently, I uninvited the entire party too. Funny how that works when your name is on everything. Catherine's face twisted into something ugly. You stupid, spiteful girl. Do you have any idea what you've done? I know exactly what I've done, I said. I gave you the same thing you gave me tonight. Nothing. The venue manager appeared, wringing his hands. I'm very sorry, but as the event holder requested cancellation, we cannot proceed. The deposit is forfeited, but the space is no longer available. Thomas pushed forward. This is insane. We have family who flew in from London. Vanessa's voice was shrill. You're pathetic. This is a birthday dinner, not about you. You're right, I said quietly. It was never about me. That's exactly my point. Marcus grabbed my arm. Not gently. His fingers dug in. Fix this. Right now. I pulled away, and something in my eyes made him step back. Fix what? I asked. The missing chair? The 3 years of being ignored? Or just tonight? My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Meet me at Cafe Greco in 1 hour. Come alone. This is about Marcus and what he's been hiding. You'll want to hear this. My heart stopped. I looked up at Marcus, who was arguing with his mother about finding another venue. He looked desperate, frantic, small. Who had my number? And what was Marcus hiding that someone needed to warn me about? I didn't tell Marcus about the text. I stood there on those stone steps, watching him and his family scramble like ants whose hill had just been kicked over. Catherine was on her phone, her voice sharp and demanding as she called restaurant after restaurant, only to be told that Saturday night reservations were impossible. Vanessa had actually started crying, black mascara tracking down her cheeks. Thomas kept pacing back and forth, muttering about embarrassment and family reputation. None of them looked at me. Even now, even after I'd just destroyed their perfect evening, I was still invisible. Just an inconvenience. An obstacle between them and what they wanted. Hannah. Marcus's voice was low, dangerous. He'd stepped away from his family and moved closer to me. I don't know what's gotten into you, but this isn't you. You're kind. You're sweet. You don't do things like this. Kind. Sweet. The words tasted bitter in my mouth because I knew what they really meant. Quiet. Compliant. Easy to ignore. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think, I said. He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times when he was frustrated. Look, I'm sorry about the chair thing, okay? It was just a joke. Vanessa thought it would be funny, and I went along with it. We were going to bring out another chair after everyone had a laugh. A joke. 3 years of marriage, and he thought humiliating me in front of his entire family was a joke. How long? I asked. What? How long have you been making jokes about me behind my back? He had the decency to look away. That told me everything. I'm leaving, I said. Don't follow me. I walked past him, past his family, down the steps of Villa Borghese. My heels clicked against the cobblestones as I made my way toward the street. Rome at night was beautiful in a way that hurt. All those ancient buildings holding centuries of secrets, all those narrow streets where people had walked and loved and betrayed each other for thousands of years. I was just one more story in a city that had seen everything. Behind me, I heard Catherine's voice rise to a shriek. The deposit was 15,000 euros. I didn't turn around. Let her scream. Let them all scream. I'd been silent for 3 years. It was their turn. The walk to Cafe Greco took 40 minutes. I could have taken a taxi, but I needed the time to think. To breathe. To figure out what I was walking into. The text message burned in my mind. What could Marcus be hiding that a stranger needed to warn me about? Affairs. Debt. Something worse. My phone kept buzzing with calls and texts. Marcus, Vanessa, even Thomas, who'd never texted me before in his life. I ignored them all. The cafe sat on Via dei Condotti, one of the oldest coffeehouses in Rome. Red velvet chairs, marble tables, walls covered in paintings and photographs of famous writers and artists who'd sat in these same seats. Casanova, Byron, Keats. People who'd lived dramatic lives full of passion and rebellion. I'd always admired them from a distance, never imagining I'd become someone with my own dramatic story to tell. I walked in at exactly 10 o'clock. The cafe was half full, couples leaning close over tiny espresso cups, tourists studying maps, an old man reading a newspaper in the corner. I scanned the room, looking for someone who might be looking for me. A woman stood up from a table near the back. She was maybe 35, with dark hair pulled into a sleek bun, wearing a black suit that screamed expensive lawyer or businesswoman. She was beautiful in a sharp, dangerous way. Nothing about her was soft. "Hannah?" she asked. I nodded, my heart pounding. "Who are you?" "My name is Elena Rossi. Please, sit down. We don't have much time." I sat across from her, my hands clasped tight in my lap. Up close, I could see the tiredness around her eyes, the tension in her jaw. Whatever she was about to tell me, it was weighing on her. "How do you know my name? How did you get my number?" Elena pulled out her phone and slid it across the table. On the screen was a photograph of Marcus. He was sitting at an outdoor cafe, somewhere I didn't recognize. Across from him was a blonde woman, young, maybe 25. They were holding hands across the table. His wedding ring was clearly visible. The air left my lungs. "Who is she?" I whispered. "Her name is Chiara Bianchi. She's a marketing consultant for your husband's family business." Elena's voice was professional, detached, like she was presenting evidence in a courtroom. "They've been seeing each other for 8 months. 8 months. I tried to do the math in my head. 8 months ago was January, right after the new year. Right after Marcus had promised that this year would be different, that he'd make more time for us, that his family would finally accept me. "How do you know this?" I asked. My voice sounded strange, hollow. Elena leaned forward. "Because Chiara is my younger sister, and she has no idea Marcus is married." The cafe seemed to tilt sideways. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. "What?" "Marcus told her he's single. Told her his family would love her. He's been taking her to family dinners in Tuscany, the ones you're never invited to. He introduced her to Catherine last month. Your mother-in-law loved her." Of course she did. Of course Catherine loved the blonde Italian girl from a good family. The one who wasn't me. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "If your sister doesn't know, why expose it?" Elena's expression hardened. "Because tonight at dinner, Chiara told me she's pregnant. And Marcus has asked her to marry him." The world stopped. Everything around me, the conversations, the clinking of cups, the soft Italian music playing overhead, all of it faded into white noise. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what I was hearing. "That's impossible," I said. "We're already married." "Exactly," Elena said. "Which makes him either a bigamist in the making or a liar who's about to destroy my sister's life. Either way, I won't let that happen. Chiara is young, naive. She believes everything he tells her. But you're his wife. You have the power to end this." I stared at the photograph on her phone. Marcus's smile, so familiar, so practiced. The same smile he'd given me when we first met. When he'd promised me forever. When he'd said his family would come around eventually. All lies. Everything had been lies. "The dinner tonight," I said slowly. "Catherine's birthday. Was Chiara supposed to be there?" Elena nodded. Marcus told her it was cancelled last minute. Family emergency. He said he'd make it up to her tomorrow. Tomorrow. While I was dealing with the aftermath of tonight, he was planning to see her. To comfort her. To play the devoted boyfriend while his actual wife fell apart. Something cold and sharp crystallized in my chest. This wasn't just about a missing chair anymore. This was about 3 years of systematic erasure. Of being hidden and diminished and prepared for disposal. Marcus hadn't just neglected me. He'd been actively replacing me. What do you want me to do? I asked. Elena pulled out a folder from her bag and slid it across the table. Everything you need is in here. Photographs, text messages, restaurant receipts, hotel bookings. I've been documenting everything for the past 2 weeks, since I started to suspect something was wrong. I'm a lawyer, Hannah. I know how these things work. If you want a divorce, this gives you leverage. I opened the folder with shaking hands. Page after page of evidence. Marcus and Chiara at dinner. At the beach. Entering a hotel in Florence. Text messages talking about their future together, about the baby, about how excited he was to start a real family with someone his mother approved of. A real family. Like I wasn't real. Like our marriage wasn't real. There's more, Elena said quietly. The wine business. Marcus has been moving money. Large amounts. I think he's been hiding assets, preparing for a divorce he hasn't told you about yet. My firm specializes in international family law. If you want, I can help you protect yourself. I looked up at her. Why are you doing this? You don't know me. Because women need to protect each other from men like him, she said. And because when Chiara finds out the truth, she's going to need someone who understands what she's going through. Someone who survived him. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Marcus. Hannah, please come back. We can talk about this. I love you. I stared at those 3 words. I love you. How many times had he said them while texting Chiara the same thing? How many times had he looked me in the eye and lied? What do you need from me? I asked Elena. Tell me you're ready to fight back. Tell me you're ready to burn his whole world down, the way he tried to burn yours. I thought about tonight. About standing against that wall, about the missing chair, about the laughter. About 3 years of disappearing a little more each day. About the baby growing inside another woman, a woman who didn't even know I existed. I closed the folder and met Elena's eyes. I'm ready, I said. But I don't just want a divorce. I want him to lose everything. Elena smiled, and it was the smile of a wolf. Then let's get to work. She pulled out a laptop and opened it to a screen full of financial documents. First, we need to move quickly. Tomorrow is Sunday. Monday morning, you're going to freeze all joint accounts. Then you're going to file for legal separation and submit this evidence to the court. Italian law is complicated for international marriages, but the adultery is clear. With this evidence, you'll have grounds for fault-based divorce. What about the business? I asked. His family's company? That's where it gets interesting, Elena said, pulling up another document. I did some research on you after Chiara mentioned Marcus's wife. You're listed as a 50% shareholder in the Roman branch of the company. Did you know that? I stared at her. That's impossible. I've never been involved in the business. Look at this. She turned the laptop toward me. There, in legal documents filed 2 years ago, was my signature on incorporation papers for Marchesi Wine Imports, Rome Division. Marcus must have had you sign papers without explaining what they were. Probably told you it was tax paperwork or rental agreements. I remembered. 2 years ago, Marcus had brought home a stack of papers, told me they were just formalities for our apartment lease renewal. I'd signed them without reading, trusting him completely. What does this mean? I asked. It means you own half the Roman operation. And according to these financial records, that division is worth approximately 4 million euros. 4 million. The number hung in the air between us. But more importantly, Elena continued, it means you have legal access to all business records. And if Marcus has been moving money illegally, hiding assets, or committing fraud, you have the right and the ability to expose it. You could destroy him financially and take his family down with him. My phone rang. Marcus again. I let it go to voicemail. There's something else you should know, Elena said, her voice dropping lower. Catherine knows about Chiara. She's been encouraging the relationship. She wants Marcus to divorce you and marry someone she approves of. The missing chair tonight wasn't just Marcus's joke. It was a message. They're pushing you out to make room for her. The pieces fell into place. The family dinners I wasn't invited to. The way Catherine always spoke about me in past tense, like I was already gone. The constant suggestions that Marcus and I weren't compatible. They'd been planning this. All of them. My erasure wasn't accidental. It was a campaign. When does Chiara find out about me? I asked. I'm telling her tomorrow morning. She deserves to know before this goes any further. I nodded. Tomorrow morning, Chiara's world would shatter the way mine just had. But she had something I didn't, someone looking out for her, protecting her. I'd been alone. My phone lit up with a text. Not from Marcus this time. From Vanessa. You're pathetic. Marcus deserves better than you. We all know it. I showed it to Elena. She read it and her jaw tightened. They're going to come at you hard, she said. The Marchesi family has money, connections, reputation. They'll try to paint you as unstable, vindictive. They'll say tonight proves you're unbalanced. Let them, I said. I have evidence. I have the truth. Truth isn't always enough, Elena warned. We need strategy. We need to be smarter, faster, and more ruthless than they are. I thought about Hannah from this morning, the woman who made coffee and taught children and tried so hard to be accepted. That Hannah would have been terrified. That Hannah would have called Marcus back, apologized, tried to fix things. But that Hannah had died tonight on those steps, with no chair and everyone laughing. Tell me what to do, I said. Elena spent the next hour walking me through the plan. Monday morning, I'd go to the bank and freeze everything. Then to her law office to file paperwork. Then to the business office to request a full audit of company finances. By Monday afternoon, Marcus would be locked out of his own money and scrambling to understand what was happening. What about Chiara? I asked. When you tell her tomorrow, she's going to be devastated. She'll survive, Elena said. She's stronger than Marcus thinks. And she has me. You didn't have anyone. That's the difference. Her words hit harder than I expected. She was right. I'd been alone in this marriage from the beginning. No one to warn me. No one to protect me. No one to tell me I deserved better. Thank you, I said quietly. For this. For helping me. Elena reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Thank me by winning. Take everything from him. We left the cafe just before midnight. The streets were quieter now, just a few late-night wanderers and couples walking arm in arm. Elena handed me her business card and a USB drive with copies of all the evidence. Don't go home tonight, she said. Get a hotel. Somewhere Marcus won't think to look. You need time to process this, and you need to be somewhere safe when he realizes what's happening. I nodded and turned to walk away, but Elena called after me. Hannah, what you did tonight, canceling that dinner, that took courage. Don't lose that. You're going to need it. I walked through Rome's winding streets, my mind racing. I found a small hotel near the Pantheon and checked in under my maiden name, Sullivan. The room was tiny but clean, with a window overlooking a quiet piazza. I sat on the bed and finally let myself feel everything I'd been holding back. The tears came hard and fast. 3 years of loneliness, of trying, of failing, of shrinking myself smaller and smaller to fit into a family that never wanted me. 3 years of loving a man who was planning to replace me. Who'd already replaced me. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages from Marcus, from his family, from numbers I didn't recognize. I turned it off and threw it in my bag. Then I opened Elena's folder again and really looked at everything. The photos of Marcus and Chiara hurt, but it was the text messages that destroyed me. The way he talked to her was the way he used to talk to me, back before we got married. Sweet, attentive, present. He'd told her she was beautiful every day. He'd sent her good morning texts. He'd remembered little details about her life. All the things he'd stopped doing for me after the wedding. After I was locked in. After I wasn't something to win anymore, just something to maintain until he found an upgrade. In one message from 3 weeks ago, Chiara had written, "Your family is so wonderful. I'm so lucky you chose me." Marcus's response, "They already love you more than they ever loved her. You're everything she could never be." I read that line 5 times. Everything she could never be. Not good enough. Not Italian enough. Not worthy enough. After 3 years of trying, of bending, of losing myself, he decided I could never be enough. The rage that filled me then was different from what I'd felt earlier. This wasn't hot anger. This was ice. This was calculation. This was the cold understanding that I was about to go to war, and I would not lose. I pulled out my laptop and started making my own notes. Everything I knew about Marcus's business. Every conversation I'd overheard. Every document I'd seen lying around our apartment. Every password he thought I didn't know. He'd underestimated me. They all had. The quiet English teacher who smiled and nodded and never made waves. They thought I was weak. They were about to learn how wrong they were. At 2 a.m, my phone turned itself back on with a final dying buzz before the battery gave out. One last message from Marcus appeared on the lock screen. "I know you're upset, but you're making this worse. Come home so we can fix this like adults. The family is willing to forgive you if you apologize." Forgive me. After everything, they wanted me to apologize. I plugged in my phone to charge and opened my email. There was a message from an address I didn't recognize, sent an hour ago. The subject line said, "You're not the only one." My hands shook as I opened it. "Dear Hannah, my name is Maria Santos. I was engaged to Marcus Marchesi 4 years ago, before he met you. He left me 3 weeks before our wedding. I've been following what happened tonight because a friend saw the chaos at Villa Borghese and told me. I think we should talk. There are things about Marcus and his family you need to know. Things that go deeper than you realize. Call me." Below was a phone number with a Spanish country code. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Another woman. Before me. Left right before the wedding, just like Marcus was trying to do to me now. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about a pattern. About a man who collected women and discarded them when they stopped being useful. About a family that enabled him. I grabbed a pen and paper and started writing down everything I knew, everything I'd learned tonight, every question I still had. The list grew longer and longer. By the time the sun started to rise over Rome, painting the Pantheon in shades of gold and pink, I had a plan. Marcus wanted to erase me. His family wanted to replace me. They thought I would disappear quietly, take whatever scraps they offered in a divorce, and fade away into nothing. They were wrong. I wasn't disappearing. I was just getting started. And by the time I was done, The Marchesi family would wish they'd given me that chair. Monday morning started with blood. I'd woken up at 6, my period arriving with sharp cramps that doubled me over in the hotel bathroom. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Chiara was pregnant with Marcus's child, my own body was confirming what I'd suspected for months. We'd been trying for a baby for over a year, or at least I thought we had been. Now I understood. Marcus had been making sure it didn't happen. He'd been planning his exit strategy, and a child with me would have complicated things. I took 2 painkillers and got dressed in the only outfit I had, the navy dress from Saturday night. It felt different now. Not like armor I'd worn to impress his family, but like a uniform for war. At 7 o'clock, I called Maria Santos in Spain. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was warm, with a slight accent that made her sound like music. "Hannah, I hoped you would call. Tell me everything," I said. For the next 40 minutes, Maria told me her story. She'd met Marcus 5 years ago when she was working at a gallery in Barcelona. He'd swept her off her feet, promised her the world, introduced her to his family. Catherine had seemed to love her at first, until she found out Maria's family wasn't wealthy. Then the small criticisms started. The comments about her clothes, her job, her background. Marcus had defended her, right up until 3 weeks before the wedding. He came to my apartment and said his family would never accept me, that he couldn't live with disappointing them, Maria said. I was devastated. I thought it was about love. But a friend told me she'd seen him with another woman 2 days later. With you, probably. He started dating me 3 weeks after he left you, I confirmed. He never mentioned you. Never mentioned being engaged before. Of course not. The Marchesi family, they erase what they don't want to acknowledge. I tried to warn the next girl, but I couldn't find her. Couldn't find you. He's very careful about keeping his lives separate. Not careful enough, I said. Did you know about the business? About the money. What money? I told her about the company shares, about Marcus hiding assets, about the evidence Elena had gathered. Maria went quiet for a long moment. Hannah, listen to me very carefully. Marcus's family, they're not just wealthy. They're connected. Catherine's brother is a judge. Her cousin is high up in the finance ministry. When I tried to get my deposit back for our wedding venue, suddenly I couldn't. Legal complications, they said. Money I'd paid just disappeared. My stomach tightened. How much? 30,000 euros. My entire savings. And when I tried to fight it, I lost my job at the gallery. No explanation. Just suddenly unemployed. It took me 2 years to recover. They destroyed you. They tried, Maria said. But I survived. And now I'm going to help you make sure they can't do it to anyone else. We talked for another 20 minutes. Maria had kept everything, every document, every email, every text message from 5 years ago. She'd been waiting for a chance to use them. Now she had one. Send me everything, I said. Every piece of evidence you have. We're building a case. What kind of case? The kind that burns their whole world down. At 8:30, I walked into the Banco di Roma where Marcus and I had our joint accounts. The manager, Signor Alberti, greeted me with a smile that faded when he saw my expression. Signora Marchesi, how can I help you? I need to freeze all joint accounts immediately, and I need copies of all transactions for the past 3 years. His smile disappeared completely. That's highly unusual. Perhaps you should discuss this with your husband first. I pulled out a folder Elena had prepared, filled with legal documents. I don't need to discuss it with anyone. These are joint accounts. I have every right to freeze them. If you refuse, I'll file a complaint with the banking authority and mention that this bank has been facilitating potential financial fraud. Signor Alberti's face went white. Fraud. large transfers to unmarked accounts, money moving to offshore holdings. My lawyer will be very interested in reviewing everything. I leaned forward. Or you can simply do what I'm asking, and we can all avoid complications. 20 minutes later, I walked out with confirmation that every joint account was frozen and a USB drive containing 3 years of financial records. Marcus had moved almost €2 million in the past 8 months. Money that should have been joint assets, quietly disappearing into accounts only he could access. Elena was waiting for me at her law office, a sleek modern building near the Spanish Steps. She'd changed from Saturday night's sharp suit into something even more severe, all black with her hair pulled back tight. She looked like an executioner. "Chiara knows," she said as soon as I walked in. "I told her this morning." "How did she take it?" Elena's expression softened slightly. "About as well as you'd expect. She's at my apartment now, crying. She wants to confront Marcus. She can't. Not yet. If she tips him off before we've secured everything, he'll run. Or worse, his family will help him hide assets we haven't found yet." "I know." I told her the same thing. "She's angry at me, angry at you, angry at the world. But she'll listen eventually." Elena had already prepared the legal paperwork. Petition for divorce based on adultery. Request for full financial disclosure. Motion to freeze business assets pending investigation. Formal complaint to the commercial court about potential fraud. It was beautiful in its thoroughness, a legal nuclear bomb aimed directly at Marcus and his family. "There's something else," Elena said, pulling up an email on her computer. "I reached out to a friend who works in finance ministry oversight. Mentioned the Marchesi family's wine import business. He's very interested in taking a look at their tax filings." "How interested?" "Raid their offices interested. Audit everything interested." She smiled. "Turns out there have been quiet questions about the family's finances for years, but Catherine's cousin kept blocking investigations. But if we provide enough evidence of wrongdoing, even family connections can't stop it." I thought about Catherine in her cream silk gown, looking through me like I didn't exist. About Vanessa calling me pathetic. About Thomas and his wife and all the cousins who'd laughed while I stood against that wall with no chair. "Do it," I said. "Give them everything." We spent the next 3 hours going through documents. Maria's evidence from 5 years ago. The financial records from the bank. Photos and text messages from Elena's investigation of Marcus and Chiara. Everything painted a picture of systematic fraud, tax evasion, and a family that thought they were above consequences. At noon, my phone started ringing. Marcus. I'd charged it overnight but hadn't turned the sound on. Now I saw I had 43 missed calls and over 100 text messages. The most recent was from an hour ago, right after the bank accounts had been frozen. "What the fuck did you do? Call me now." I showed it to Elena. She laughed. "He's panicking." "Good. Should I answer?" "Not yet. Let him spiral. Men like Marcus, they're used to being in control. Take that away and they make mistakes." My phone rang again. This time it was Catherine. I stared at her name on the screen, remembering every cold look, every dismissive comment, every time she'd made me feel small. I answered and put it on speaker. "Hannah." Catherine's voice was ice. "I don't know what game you're playing, but you need to stop this immediately." "Hello, Catherine. How was the rest of your birthday?" "Don't be cute. You've frozen accounts that don't belong to you. You've filed ridiculous legal complaints. You're embarrassing yourself and this family." "I'm not part of the family, remember? You made that very clear on Saturday." "That was a joke, for God's sake." Marcus explained. "Marcus has been having an affair for 8 months with a woman he told he was single. A woman who's pregnant with his child. A woman you've been welcoming into the family while actively trying to push me out. I kept my voice calm, steady. That's not a joke, Catherine. That's fraud. That's bigamy. That's a pattern of behavior that goes back years. Silence on the other end of the line. Then, quietly, "You can't prove any of that." "Actually, I can. Photos, text messages, financial records, witness testimony. I have everything. And tomorrow morning, I'm submitting it all to the commercial court and the finance ministry. Your family's business is about to be investigated for tax fraud and money laundering." "You wouldn't dare." But her voice shook. "We'll destroy you. We have lawyers, connections, resources you can't even imagine." "Your cousin in the finance ministry? The one who's been blocking investigations? He's being transferred. Conflict of interest. By Wednesday, he won't be able to protect you anymore." I made sure of that. Another silence. Longer this time. "What do you want?" Catherine asked finally. "I want you to feel what I felt on Saturday night. Powerless. Humiliated. Erased." I paused. "And I want every euro Marcus stole from me. Every piece of the business I legally own. Every single thing I'm entitled to under Italian law." "That will bankrupt us." "Then you should have given me a chair." I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, adrenaline flooding my system. Elena was grinning. "That was perfect," she said. "She's terrified." "Good." My phone immediately started ringing again. Marcus, Catherine, Vanessa, Thomas, numbers I didn't recognize. I turned off the sound and set it face down on Elena's desk. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we wait for them to make their move. They'll try to negotiate, offer you a settlement to make this go away quietly. Don't take it. Whatever they offer, it won't be enough, and it will come with conditions that protect them. I'm not taking anything. I want this in court. I want it public." Elena nodded approvingly. "Then let's make sure we're prepared for war." That afternoon, I went back to the apartment I'd shared with Marcus for 3 years. My apartment, I reminded myself. My name was on the lease. He'd moved into my space when we got married because his place had been smaller. Another thing I'd given up without realizing what I was losing. I'd called ahead to have the locks changed. The locksmith had just finished when I arrived. Inside, everything looked the same. The expensive furniture Marcus's mother had bought us. The wine collection his father had gifted. The art Vanessa had chosen. Nothing in this apartment was really mine except the books on the shelves and the photos I'd hung trying to make it feel like home. I started packing. Clothes, books, my grandmother's jewelry, the few things that mattered. Everything else could stay. Let Marcus live surrounded by his family's choices. I was done trying to fit into spaces that weren't made for me. I was in the bedroom when I heard the door open. My heart jumped, then steadied. I'd expected this. Marcus stood in the doorway, and he looked terrible. His hair was a mess, his eyes were red, his clothes looked slept in. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Then I remembered Chiara, pregnant and heartbroken. I remembered Maria, abandoned 3 weeks before her wedding. I remembered myself, standing against that wall. "Hannah!" His voice cracked. "Please. We need to talk." "The locks are changed," I said calmly, continuing to pack. "How did you get in?" I told the portiere it was an emergency. "Hannah, stop packing. Just stop and listen to me." "I'm listening." I folded another shirt and placed it in my suitcase. "This is insane. You've frozen our accounts, filed for divorce. You're trying to destroy my family's business. Over what?" "A stupid joke about a chair." I turned to look at him then. Really look at him. He believed it. He actually believed this was about the chair. Tell me about Chiara, I said. All the color drained from his face. What? Chiara Bianchi, marketing consultant. 8 months. Pregnant. Ring any bells? He stumbled backward like I'd hit him. Who told you? Does it matter? Is it true? He couldn't meet my eyes. That was answer enough. Hannah, I can explain. It's not what you think. I was going to end it. I was confused. She was just there, and my family, they kept pushing, and I made a mistake. 8 months isn't a mistake. A baby isn't a mistake. Telling her you're single isn't a mistake. Planning to marry her while you're still married to me isn't a mistake. My voice stayed level, cold. That's a choice. Multiple choices. Hundreds of little choices that all meant you wanted her instead of me. That's not true. I love you, Hannah. I married you. She was what my family wanted, and I got caught up in trying to make everyone happy. Everyone except me. He ran his hands through his hair, that familiar gesture of frustration. What do you want me to say? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can go to therapy, we can work it out. There's nothing to work out. I want a divorce. I want half of everything we built together, which includes half the Roman division of your family's business since my name is on the incorporation papers. And I want you to face consequences for the first time in your privileged life. You can't do this, he said, and now anger was creeping into his voice. You can't just destroy everything because your feelings are hurt. My feelings aren't hurt, Marcus. My feelings are dead. You killed them over 3 years of systematic neglect and humiliation. Saturday night was just the final blow. I zipped up my suitcase. But this isn't about feelings anymore. This is about justice. Justice. He laughed, harsh and bitter. You want to talk about justice? You sabotaged my mother's birthday dinner. You embarrassed my entire family in front of everyone who matters in this city. You're the one who... I'm the one who what? Fought back. Refused to be erased quietly? Sorry if that's inconvenient for you. He stepped closer, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Something ugly. You're making a mistake. My family has resources you can't imagine. We'll bury you in legal fees. We'll make sure you never work in Rome again. We'll threaten me. I finished. Like you threatened Maria Santos? Made her lose her job, stole her money, tried to destroy her life when she wouldn't go away quietly. His face went white. You talked to Maria? I talked to Maria. And she's prepared to testify about everything your family did to her. Along with Chiara, who's very interested in pressing charges for fraud and emotional distress. Along with me, who has 3 years of documentation of financial abuse and adultery. I picked up my suitcase. You wanted to erase me, Marcus. Instead, you created a paper trail that's going to destroy you. Hannah, please. Now he was begging, and it sounded pathetic. Don't do this. We can settle this quietly. I'll give you money, whatever you want. Just don't go to court. Don't make this public. Why? Embarrassed? Afraid of what people will think. I walked toward the door. You should have thought of that before you made me stand against that wall with no chair while everyone laughed. That was Vanessa's idea. I told you, it was just supposed to be funny. It wasn't funny. It was cruel. And it was the final insult after 1,000 small cruelties I'd been too desperate to acknowledge. I stopped at the door and looked back at him one last time. I spent 3 years trying to be enough for you and your family. Trying to earn love that was never going to be given. I'm done trying. Now I'm taking. "You'll regret this," he said, and now his voice was hard. "When you're alone and broke and blacklisted from every school in Italy, you'll regret burning this bridge." "Maybe," I said, "but I'll regret it free. And that's worth everything." I walked out, pulling my suitcase behind me. Behind me, I heard something shatter. Marcus throwing something, probably losing control because he was losing everything else. I didn't look back. Elena had arranged for me to stay in a corporate apartment her firm kept for clients. It was small but beautiful, all clean lines and modern furniture, overlooking the Tiber. I'd never lived alone before. I'd gone from my parents' house to university housing to living with Marcus. The silence felt strange at first. Then it felt like peace. Tuesday morning, the finance ministry raided the Marchesi family's business offices. I watched the news coverage from Elena's office, seeing officials carrying boxes of documents out of the building Marcus's grandfather had built. Catherine was there, shouting at investigators, her perfect composure shattered. Thomas tried to block the door and was gently but firmly moved aside. Vanessa cried on camera, asking how they could do this to such a respected family. "They're panicking," Elena said with satisfaction. "Good." Wednesday, the story hit the newspapers. Not the raid, that was still being investigated. But Chiara had gone public. She'd given an interview to a major Italian newspaper about being deceived by a married man, about the baby she was carrying, about the family that had welcomed her while hiding the truth. She didn't name Marcus directly, but she didn't have to. Anyone who knew the family would recognize the details. By Wednesday afternoon, my phone had 247 messages. Death threats from Marcus's friends. Support from women I'd never met who'd been through similar situations. Interview requests from journalists. Marriage proposals from random men, which would have been funny if it wasn't so disturbing. One message stood out. From Signora Ferretti, the elderly woman who lived next door to our apartment. She'd always been kind to me, one of the few people in the building who actually acknowledged my existence. "Dear Hannah, I heard what happened. I want you to know I always thought you deserved better. Come to my apartment when you can. I have something for you." Thursday afternoon, I went to see her. She welcomed me with espresso and biscotti, settling me at her kitchen table like I was her granddaughter. "I'm glad you're fighting back," she said. "I watched that family treat you terribly for 3 years. Always wanted to say something, but it wasn't my place." "You were always kind to me," I said. "That meant more than you know." She patted my hand. "I have something for you." She pulled out a worn notebook. "I keep a diary. Old habit. And I've been writing down things I noticed about Marcus. Strange visitors at odd hours. Arguments I overheard. The blonde girl who started coming around last winter when you were at work." She'd documented everything. Dates, times, descriptions. A neighbor's account of Marcus's affair that corroborated everything Elena had gathered. "Why?" I asked. "Because women my age, we've lived through things. We've been erased and dismissed and treated like we don't matter. I saw it happening to you, and I thought if she ever needs proof, if she ever fights back, she should have it." She pressed the notebook into my hands. "Use it. Make them pay for every slight." I cried then, in this old woman's kitchen, because she'd seen me when everyone else had looked through me. She documented my pain because she knew someday I might need proof that it was real. Friday, Marcus's lawyer contacted Elena to discuss settlement. They were offering 200,000 euros and a non-disclosure agreement. "It's an insult," Elena said. "Your share of the business alone is worth 2 million. Plus damages, plus assets he hid, we're looking at closer to 4 million euros. "No settlement," I said. "I want my day in court. It's going to get ugly. They'll drag your name through the mud. They'll claim you're unstable, vindictive, that you sabotaged the birthday dinner because you're mentally ill. Let them try. I have 3 years of text messages showing I was the only one trying to save this marriage. I have testimony from Maria, from Chiara, from Signora Ferretti. I have financial records showing Marcus systematically stole from me. Let them explain that to a judge. Elena smiled. Okay then. We go to war. The preliminary hearing was set for 3 weeks later. In that time, more women came forward. 2 other ex-girlfriends of Marcus who'd been discarded when they weren't suitable enough for his family. A business partner Marcus had defrauded. A former employee who'd been fired for questioning the company's accounting practices. The Marchesi family was crumbling. The Finance Ministry investigation had found years of tax evasion. Catherine's cousin had been suspended pending ethics review. The wine import business had lost contracts as clients distanced themselves from the scandal. Vanessa had been dropped from a luxury brand sponsorship deal. Thomas was facing his own legal problems for his role in hiding company assets. And Marcus was alone. His family had turned on him, blaming him for exposing them. Chiara had filed a lawsuit. Maria was pursuing charges for the money that had been stolen from her. I had half his business and access to all his secrets. He called me one last time, 2 days before the hearing. "Hannah," he said, and his voice was broken. "I'm sorry. For everything. You were right. About all of it. I was a coward and a liar, and I destroyed the one good thing in my life." "Yes," I said simply. "You did. Can you ever forgive me?" I thought about that question. About forgiveness and moving on and being the bigger person. All the things women are told to do when men hurt them. "No," I said. "But I can let you go. I can stop letting you take up space in my head. I can build a life without you. And that's enough." "I don't know what to do," he whispered. "I've lost everything." "Now you know how I felt on Saturday night," I said. "Standing against that wall with no chair. Watching everyone laugh. Realizing I meant nothing to people I'd loved for 3 years. I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix anything, Marcus. Sorry is just a word you say when you've run out of excuses." I took a breath. "But I do hope you learn from this. I hope you become better. I hope the next woman you love, you actually treat like she matters." "There won't be a next woman. I know that now. You were it. You were everything, and I threw you away." "Yes," I said. "You did. Goodbye, Marcus." I hung up before he could respond. It felt like closing a door on a room I'd been trapped in for 3 years. The relief was overwhelming. The hearing itself was anticlimactic. Marcus's lawyers tried to paint me as unstable, but they couldn't explain the financial records. They couldn't dismiss the testimony of multiple women. They couldn't wave away the evidence of systematic fraud and hidden assets. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s who reminded me of Signora Ferretti, saw through every lie. The divorce was granted. I was awarded half the Roman division of the business, plus compensation for emotional distress and financial abuse. 2 million euros in immediate payment, plus ongoing royalties from the business. Marcus was ordered to pay restitution to Maria Santos and to Chiara Bianchi. The family business was placed under financial oversight pending the completion of the criminal investigation. Catherine didn't attend the hearing. Neither did Vanessa or Thomas. Only Marcus was there, looking small and defeated in a suit that had probably cost more than my first car. When the judge read the ruling, he didn't react. Just sat there, staring at his hands. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. And free. Outside the courthouse, Elena hugged me tight. "You did it. You actually did it." "We did it," I corrected. "I couldn't have done this without you." "What now?" she asked. "What are you going to do with your life?" I thought about that. About the money I'd won, the freedom I'd earned, the future that was suddenly wide open. I'm going to live, I said. Really live. Not trying to be small enough to fit into someone else's life. Just mine. 3 months later, I was sitting at a cafe in Trastevere, the neighborhood where Marcus and I had first met. I'd been avoiding this area, too many memories. But today felt different. Today felt like reclaiming space. Chiara found me there. She'd had the baby, a girl. She looked tired but stronger somehow. Elena had told me she'd been staying with her, getting back on her feet. "Can I sit?" she asked. I nodded, gesturing to the empty chair across from me. We sat in awkward silence for a moment. Then she said, "I wanted to thank you for what you did. Elena told me you could have exposed me publicly, used the baby against Marcus, made my life harder. But you protected me. You were a victim too," I said. "You didn't deserve to be collateral damage in my revenge. Still, you showed me kindness when you had every reason not to." She paused. "I named her Sophia, after my grandmother, and I'm raising her far away from Rome, away from the Marchesi family. She's going to grow up knowing her worth isn't determined by whether some man chooses her." "That's beautiful," I said. Chiara stood to leave, then turned back. "He asks about you, Marcus. He's living in a small apartment now, working at a warehouse. His family won't speak to him. He asks Elena if you're okay." "What do you tell him?" "I tell him it's none of his business, that you're living your life, and he's not part of it anymore." She smiled slightly. "But between us, are you okay?" I thought about the question. About the corporate job I'd quit to pursue teaching full-time at an international school that actually appreciated me. About the apartment I'd rented on my own, small but mine. About the friends I'd made, the life I was building brick by brick without anyone's approval but my own. "I'm better than okay," I said. "I'm free." After Chiara left, I sat at that cafe for another hour, watching Rome move around me. Couples walking hand in hand. Tourists studying maps. Old men arguing about football. Life continuing in all its messy, beautiful chaos. My phone buzzed. A text from Elena. "Dinner tonight? I want you to meet someone. Her name is Rebecca. She's going through something similar with her husband's family. I think you could help her." I smiled and typed back, "Of course. Send me the details." This was my life now. Not perfect. Not the fairy tale I'd imagined when I married Marcus. But real. Mine. Built on my terms, in my time, with people who actually saw me. I thought about that night at Villa Borghese. About standing against the wall with no chair. About the laughter. About the moment I decided I was done disappearing. That missing chair had been a gift, in the end. It had shown me exactly where I stood with people I'd been killing myself to please. And it had given me the push I needed to walk away. I finished my coffee and stood to leave. As I walked through Trastevere's winding streets, I passed the exact cafe where Marcus and I had met 5 years ago. I could have avoided it. Could have taken a different route. But I didn't. I walked right past it without looking back. Because that story was over, and I was writing a new one. A story where I gave myself a seat at the table. Where I decided my own worth. Where I built a family of chosen people who actually wanted me there. A story that started with a missing chair and ended with me finding myself. And that, I thought as Rome's golden afternoon light spilled across the cobblestones, was the best revenge of all. Not destroying Marcus, though that had felt good too. But proving that I didn't need him, didn't need his family, didn't need anyone's permission to take up space in the world. I was Hannah Sullivan again. Not Hannah Marchesi. Not someone's disappointing wife. Not a woman trying to shrink herself to fit. Just Hannah. Standing tall. Taking up space. Living. and I'd never felt more powerful in my life.